are you?
With you,
Good to see you. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. There you go.
Good.
Can somebody take a picture? Trying to get on the other side now, so.
Eddie, what's more likely, the fourth fight with Chocolatito or the Yoka-Franco?
I mean, look, in terms of fights you'd want to see, you'd always want to see another Chocolatito Estrada. But it's going to be important to Juan to try and unify and become undisputed in the division. So we'll see what happens in December with Franco and Ioka.
I don't know if you saw it earlier today, but Tyson Fury knocked out Derek Chirsora. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was, I love Derek, but it was quite predictable, because of the first two fights, and Tyson's at the peak of his powers at the moment, and Derek's still a very good heavyweight, but not quite at that level. But he gave it everything, and I think the fight should have been stopped a lot earlier. But a routine victory, and on he goes.
What's next for Joshua? What's next?
He'll be fighting end of March, early April. He's just touched down in America. He's getting his training plans together, which will start in the first week of January, and looking to announce his date very soon. An opponent will follow in due course. I think the opponent will probably come once he completes his training plans, because I think it's important to speak to the training team to decide who they want, because he would fight anybody, but obviously they'll want a specific fighter to develop working with him and moving forward.
Is he shopping trainers again?
I think he's always looking and learning and speaking, and had a good experience with Robert Garcia, but I think he's definitely looking at his camp and how he can improve it for the next one.
Of all your prospects, where do you rank Pacheco?
I think he's incredible. I mean, we signed him at 17 and we had to box him in Mexico for a while because he couldn't fight, and he was a very quiet guy. Although he was very tall in frame, he looked like he had a lot of filling out to do, which is starting to happen. He's got a great trainer in Jose Benavidez Sr., and I think that he's a future world champion. He's only 21, he's 16-0. I expect him to have another 4 or 5 fights at the level slightly above tonight, but I think he's an outstanding prospect, probably one of the best in America.
Is Canelo have a third fight with Matchroom and DAZN still?
I mean, we have the rematch clause in play with Bivol, obviously, which he's wants to exercise for September. So in that case, we make the interim fight as well, which we're looking at. Obviously, John Ryder is our fighter. He's the mandatory for Canelo Alvarez with the WBO. He's the interim world champion with the WBO. So it's very likely that will be next, and then the Bivol fight will be in September.
You said it was a rematch clause, so is Bivol obligated to the rematch?
I mean, subject to certain terms, but ultimately, if the numbers work for that fight, which we know it would, then that fight will happen. But he also wants to fight Beterbiev for the undisputed at 175. And also, I think the interesting thing about the fight is that I think that Bivol would like to fight Canelo at 168 to try and become undisputed. And I think Eddie Reynoso would be up for that as well. I think for Saul, probably would prefer it at 175 because he lost at 175, do you know what I mean? But Bivol is all about the belts. He's all about becoming undisputed. And if he fights Canelo at 168 for undisputed, he could then fight Beterbiev at 175 for undisputed, win or lose.
Eddie, what do you make of those comments that Bivol obviously is always respectful, but he made it a point that Canelo's coming up with excuses?
Excuses? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think that Canelo's performance against Bivol or Triple G was quite up to his standards. Now, obviously, we know he was carrying an injury, but I don't know. I think that we expect so much from Canelo Alvarez that if he doesn't perform A-star every time, everyone starts wondering what's happening. We have to give credit to Bivol because it was an unbelievable performance. We saw in the Ramirez fight, this guy is a pound-for-pound great as well, and up at 175, it's very difficult for Saul to compete with those guys, but that's what he wanted to do.
And what's next for Canelo? Obviously, John Ryder's in the mix.
I think he'll be Ryder. I would love to take Saul abroad and fight internationally. He's done Las Vegas so many times. We had a great run through the back of COVID where we went to San Antonio with Callum Smith, we went to Miami with Yildirim, then we went to Dallas with Billy Joe Saunders, then he fought in Vegas against Caleb Plant. Now he's gone Vegas. I'd love to see him fight in London, and I'd also love to see him fight in Mexico.
Is that a stadium fight?
Yeah, in London, for sure. I mean, he would just be huge in London.
And you spoken to him about fighting in London and how?
I spoke to Eddie Reynoso and he said, look, let us know the options. London, Mexico, America. I'd like to see him. If he's going to fight in America, personally, I'd like to see it in a stadium. You know, I love to see him do the stadium shows. Dallas Cowboys against Billy Joe was unbelievable. You know, even Miami during COVID, we were only allowed 19,000 or something like that in the Hard Rock. That was incredible as well. I'd love to take him to Mexico, but it's, you know, Eddie and Sal, the bosses, will just present the offers and the options, and they'll choose.
And do you feel like if you know, the fight, hopefully David and Caleb happens, do you believe the winner of that fight, because it seems like that seems like a fight that Canelo's kind of holding off on, and I don't think he's necessarily ducking. Do you think whoever wins that fight is should they deserve that fight with Canelo?
Firstly, it's all I have no say. You know, it's all down to Eddie Reynoso and Saul. I don't see any point in a Caleb Plant rematch. He beat him up and he knocked him out after a good start from Caleb Plant. I think the David Benavidez Canelo Alvarez fight is a big fight if he beats Caleb Plant. And you know, I've been very lucky to get to know Canelo. He would never ever duck one fighter. But he also feels like, not that you have to earn your shot, but you know, you can't just fight nobody and get a shot.
And expect to fight.
And I think David Benavidez would agree. He's boxed nobody so far at elite level.
Right.
The Caleb Plant fight is a fantastic fight. That's exactly the kind of fight that should be getting made. If he beats Caleb Plant, I think he can scream from the rooftops for a fight with Canelo Alvarez, and I expect him to get that. Obviously, Canelo's plans this year are maybe John Ryder and Dimitri Bivol, but then after that, a Benavidez fight would be very big.
Who would you like to see Bivol next? Obviously, I would imagine it's going to be a fight in between the Canelo.
Yeah, I mean, well, you got, you know, Beterbiev's fighting at the end of January, and then it's Ramadan, so he's probably not going to be around until the end of summer. So Bivol will have to fight before. I'd like him to fight Joshua Buatsi, maybe Callum Smith, another great fight as well. But you know, he'll want to stay busy. He's had a fantastic 2022.
What do you think about Charlo saying he wants to fight him?
When did Charlo last fight? It's like a year and 3 months ago. I don't understand. You know, boxing is so messed up with fighters who are making too much money that don't represent their commercial value. I was guilty of that when we came into America. But these guys would rather not fight. It tells you how much they love the sport and care about their legacy, where really they're just happy to just drive around in Lamborghinis and not really get in the gym. That's why I have so much respect for Canelo, because he actively wants to fight. You know, he could just have a year off if he wanted to and just go on holiday. But he wants to get back in the gym, he wants to fight, and that's what they should be doing. But too many of them are so inactive.